light mode versus dark mode. I have changed the title to Why Not Both, or also known as light mode versus dark mode, or why building both dark and light schemes together is easy, actually. I hope I'm not overselling that. So yeah, hi, I'm Sarah. I am both an old hand, like Mike said, I've been building websites as a teenager since 1999. Only my own stuff. It was only ever really a hobby thing. I had a long hiatus and did other things. And now I'm a newbie again. I switched my career from doing kind of general electronic and other stuff in small companies and a couple of big companies. And I jumped into web development. That's not last year anymore, is it? 2 years ago now. I still feel like a newbie. I guess I'm not, but I feel like one. Just a little warning that there's already been some movement. There'll be some more movement, a tiny bit of animation, and abrupt changes between dark and light modes in this presentation, because it's difficult not to. If you suffer from migraines, epilepsy, strong astigmatism, I'm really sorry. But I hope that with this information that I'm about to present to you, browsing the web will get more comfortable for you and everyone else. So with that aside, I'll try and warn whenever I'm about to flash the screen from dark to light. Let's get started. Dark mode versus light mode. And we all love a good polarizing argument, and what could be more polarizing than dark versus light? But there are physical reasons to prefer one over the other. And you're just allowed to prefer dark or light mode. That's okay. You don't need to have a logical reason for it, because your eyes, your choice. So, that said, why dark mode? Your pupils constrict when they come across a bright page or a bright anything. I think you can quite often notice you feel the muscles pulling your iris inwards to make your pupil smaller. And if you're in a dark surroundings, like I am right now, it's like, it's 10:15 here. If you suddenly jump into a bright website, that's uncomfortable. And then other people have floaters that appear and distort or block their vision. A lot of you may. I mean, I'm 40 now, so sometimes when I'm looking up at a bright sky, I see these things. This second example on the right is a bit more what I see, sort of a translucent something or other just drifting across. But some people with really severe floaters might struggle to read dark text on a light background, because the light background just sort of is distorted through these floaters. Why light mode? Pupils constrict when coming across a bright page. But that can be a good thing, actually, because it's easier to focus when your pupil is smaller. Like with a camera aperture, you might close your aperture in order to get a whole landscape in focus. Whereas if your aperture is large, you have to very carefully focus on separate items. You have your foreground and your background, and they're different, and you have to focus. And it's the same with your eyes. They have to work to focus more when your pupil is large, because everything's darker. And then people who have astigmatism, which is a slightly unsymmetrical lens or cornea, which shapes the light differently, light text on dark backgrounds can become hard to read. They might be clear like they are now, but with a little bit of extra fuzz, and your brain and your eyes work together to try and sharpen out that fuzz, to try and focus better. But when you can't, let's get away from that. When you can't get, when you start to get headaches. And interestingly, I found a lot more examples about this and people struggling with dark mode, because clearly there's a lot of people quite annoyed about websites only available in dark mode. So there's really loads of examples people have made of slightly fuzzed out or distorted text, light text on a dark background. And even I'm looking at these and, I'm trying to focus them. I can feel my eyes and my brain trying to focus these bits of text, and I can't, of course. And if you're staring at this all the time, it's going to hurt. And I love this one. I am the douchebag who makes people read white text on a black background. I can see why people are annoyed. So that would be why you might prefer light mode. Why not both? Both. Both. Both is good. I'm sure everyone gets that reference. Anyway, so in this talk scope is just having your site react to Prefers color scheme. So I'm not going to talk about manual toggling. It can be done. I will show you it shortly, because with a bit of JavaScript, it's absolutely quite easy, and you can find lots of advice on the internet, including me trying to give advice on it in various places. I've got a little toggle here. Be warned, it's all going to go white. And back again. And back to auto. So the toggling is absolutely possible, but I'm not going to go into how to do that in this talk. And I must remember to click right. Okay, so this is what I get for rolling my own presentation. So starting from scratch, if you have no styles, this is no problem. However, if you have already a really big mature site or design system or massive project, this may be tricky to bring into your projects. If everything already has specific colors, branding, everything set, it's going to be hard to put this back in. It's possible. I'm sure it's possible, but it's going to be difficult. But I want you to keep this light mode, dark mode, bothness in mind next time you start a new project. So we know this. We all have seen default HTML themes. Not that we look at it very much anymore, because you probably set your CSS reset before you even look at the page. I often set everything to just sans serif at least before I start anything. It's standard HTML here. There's nothing unusual. But you may not know that there's also a default dark theme. And everything's done for you. The buttons, the inputs, the link colors here have all been adjusted already to look better in dark mode. You don't have to do it. The browser's done it for you. So how do we get to that? You don't even need CSS. And Mayank did hint to this earlier, that you can put a meta tag in your HTML. The meta name is color scheme, color-scheme, and the content is light dark. You can put dark light. It might make a difference if a user's OS isn't broadcasting I'm in light mode or I'm in dark mode. I'm not sure many of them do that now. I think almost all of them are in light mode or dark mode. There might be some that don't care. If there's some that don't care, if you put dark light, it may be that your website shows in dark mode first as a preference. I haven't been able to test it. You can also put it in your CSS. So under the root or HTML selector, you have color-scheme, light dark. And this is just telling the browser, this website can show up in light or dark, no problem. And then the browser will follow the operating system's preference and show you your preferred version of this website. So just as an example, in CodePen, technically, it has a separate place for the head. You're not supposed to put, where's my cursor gone? You're not supposed to put the head here within the HTML, but you can do it and it seems to work. So this is what I'm using as a display. And because my laptop, my Windows, is in dark mode, because I prefer the whole UI in dark mode, it's going to dark. I could just drop dark and I'll go back to light. In fact, I can put some sort of gibberish in there and it will still be light, because light remains the default. Or I can say all of this is going to be dark. And just to prove that this is the case, I'll just pop open DevTools here. There's my nice little thing. So we've got color scheme light dark. I'll say prefers color scheme light from DevTools. Boom, everything is light. And I'll put it back to automatic, which is what my laptop wants to be. For some reason, this gets hung in a very strange position. I suspect it's this head getting annoyed with real head. Not entirely sure what's going on there. So what we also have are system colors, and the most reliable of these is Canvas text and Canvas. And they're kind of what you expect them to be. Don't confuse them with canvas, the element canvas. Canvas text is the color of the text. Canvas is the color of your background. Here you can see I've just done a div with what you'd expect. And then I've reversed them. And you can see they're just reversed in here. If I call this dark, it's dark. I'll put it back to light. Or I can do light dark and it'll turn dark again because my laptop is in dark mode. So you can apply a color scheme to most elements, but you do need to put the canvas text and the canvas in there first. If I just remove them here, it doesn't quite work because your element is sort of transparent by default. So you need to have given them a color and a background color before you can put color scheme on an element. Otherwise, it's got nothing to work on. I found that by trial and error. So there are other system colors, and I have a roll eyes emoji there because they're patchy. And I just want to tell you they're patchy, and it's a bit sad, really. Oh, I can get rid of DevTools here now too, apologies. So here you'd expect really that link text, which is being applied to this one, should look like the text of an actual link, and visited text should look like the color of the text of an actual visited thing, and active text should look like, let's hope I don't actually go to this link, should look like that. Unfortunately, it does not. This is Edge I'm using, so Chromium. I tried it on Chrome and it looked much the same. Who does do it well is Firefox. Beautiful. Link text looks like link text. Visited text looks like visited text. Active text looks like active text. Great. So one up for Firefox on that one. I'm hoping they're going to trickle through, but I've not seen any improvement on that in a couple of years. So maybe we can push on that. Contrast too high. So you're there, you've got your canvas and your canvas text, and you're thinking like, great, but I don't just want to use those. Maybe contrast is a bit too high. And like is written there, those implementing WCAG or WCAG for accessibility may find it unlikely that contrast could be too high. But for some, for example, migraineurs, they do have trouble with this. It can kick off migraines, especially on websites where things are moving and scrolling. If the contrast is too high, it can start to kick things off. But there is also a prefers contrast. This is a bit tricky because I'm not sure where you can set prefers contrast in your operating systems, but it's there. And I'm fairly sure prefers color scheme came before all OSs allowed you to toggle color scheme, dark or light. So hoping that prefers contrast starts allowing OSs to let you toggle contrast. So the simplest way to bring contrast down across the board is filter contrast. So, for example, that's just an extra thing I've added there. I've added a media filter on prefers contrast less, and just filtering the whole thing by half, which is possibly a bit extreme, but let's bring DevTools back in. And under rendering, under here, so with the console, I'm trying to remember how I opened this. Somewhere you can find this rendering options, and there's all sorts of different options you have here, including prefers color scheme, but here is prefers contrast. I've set nothing for custom, I've set nothing for more, but you can totally do something different for prefers contrast more or prefers contrast less. And then my media query here is kicking in. I have done a lot of CSS nesting here just because it's fun, not necessarily because it's best practice yet, but I think it's great. Let's bring down the contrast change a tick. And even for me with normal-ish eyesight, apart from age-related trouble, it's already calmer for me. I prefer slightly lower contrast. But you might not want to put a filter over everything all the time. So we can start using other colors, of course. I really like color mix because we can use canvas, text and canvas. We can use them as mixes with other colors. So they look good both in dark mode and light mode, while only having to declare them once. So for example, here, if you knock out the percentage, which you can, it just goes to 50-50. But 40 looks good here, so I'll stick 40 back in. And if I go back to my toggle down here, and I'll switch it into light mode, and then the backgrounds also lighten up because they're mixed with canvas. And the text has darkened because it's mixed with canvas text, which has flipped along with my colour scheme. Also here is another a cheaty way to do it, is just having a bit of lower opacity. So here I've got magenta, it's all red, 0 green, all blue, plus opacity of 4, which in hex is, 25%. I'm just going to flip it again. Blop. So that's one way. We can, as we used to, use prefers colour scheme. We're totally used to it. We can do it. However, if you're flipping colour scheme, just colour scheme light dark with your JS like I am here, it doesn't change. Here I've set it so that when it prefers colour scheme light, this top one should have a background of a teal colour, and this bottom one should have a background of an RG, a green with 25% opacity. And they do not, because prefers colour scheme is only asking the OS. It's not flipping with colour scheme. Again, we'll just go to DevTools just to prove that it does work. So colour scheme light coming again. Ooh, we're in a halfway house. That's because I've got dark mode here. These all interact with each other, and it's so interesting. So light, and then back to dark. And then we're going to go light again just to show that the two purpley colours are going to greeny colours. And back to dark again. And make it clear it's only automatic. Light, dark, auto. So it's prefers colour scheme and the colour scheme property are a little bit away from each other once you start to introduce toggling. But what's coming is light dark, and it's not quite in all browsers. It's coming in version 17.5 of Safari, and there might be one or two straggler browsers after that, but it's really nearly with us. And just to show the difference, here we have a whole media query. Here it's nested within the first declaration, so it's not too big, but still it's a whole media query. Whereas here it's just saying, when it's light, I want this colour. When it's dark, I want this colour. And the same here. When it's light, I want this colour. When it's dark, I want this colour. And that will work with the OS flipping to being dark or light mode, and also just with, it's going to go light now, with colour scheme. And back to light, and back to dark. Sorry, this is really satisfying for me. But this is happily working on Microsoft Edge and Chrome, and I think Firefox already, yes, and there's just Safari left to go, but it's so close. It's in beta right now. So to summarize, once it lets me go to the next slide, in summary, have a go at using colour scheme light dark or the meta tag. Either way, it really doesn't matter. If you use the meta tag, arguably it's easier to flip with JavaScript. Try using colour mix when you're adding colours, mixing it with canvas or canvas text. Have a go at supporting user contrast preferences. And look forward to light dark like I am. And then I just encourage you to experiment, because it's just changing these things are quite easy things to change. You need to experiment to see what works with what and how you can adjust things and what looks good in dark and light at the same time. I find it immensely fun to play with. And so I'm glad to share it with you, and I hope you find it fun to play with too. So the takeaway I'd like to send to you, if you'd like to take it away, is to offer choice. Just with the dark mode, light mode, and the more contrast, less contrast, you have 4 different themes already. And if you decide to do something for, well, that would be normal contrast, I suppose, and less contrast. If you decide to do something extra for more contrast, then you've got 6. Yeah, then you've got 6 themes all at once. On my homepage, I add a border to everything in Canvas or Canvas text, depending on whether it's dark or light mode. And it's brilliant. It just shows everything up extremely contrastily. That's it. I hope you have some fun playing with it. I'll share these slides. I obviously stand on the shoulders of giants. There's so many people whose stuff I've read and digested, and some people have digested my previous stuff and come out again with it better, written it better than I did. So please follow a few links. And thank you. I'm really honoured to have taken part in the 11T conference. Huge thanks to the crew, Zach, Olivia, Mike, David, and I can see in the studio here Captioner Diane, because that's work. And thank you very much.